If you've been scrolling through endless listings of mini-fridges, side-by-side beverage centers, and countertop coolers, and you still feel that knot in your stomach every time you think about spending money on the wrong unit, this review is here to cut through the noise. You've probably imagined a sleek little box tucked under a counter, humming quietly while you pull out a cold soda after a long day, but you're also wondering if you'll end up with a gadget that takes up space you didn't need or, worse, a model that can't keep your drinks at the right temperature when the party gets going. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's walk through the real-world considerations that matter most, so you can decide whether the Summit 15-inch beverage center actually makes sense for your kitchen, office break room, or small commercial space. First off, the biggest hesitation people have with a beverage center of this size is whether the 2.6 cu.ft capacity is enough for their needs. If you're the type who entertains a handful of friends once a week, or you run a modest office where a few co-workers swing by for coffee and a cold water bottle, this volume usually translates to roughly 3,040 standard cans, or a mix of bottles and a few larger jugs. That's enough to keep a small gathering stocked without constantly restocking, but it won't replace a full-size refrigerator if you're trying to store meals as well. In practice, I've seen families use a unit like this as a dedicated drink zone next to the main fridge, pulling it off the habit of opening a larger door every time they just want a soda. The trade-off is clear: you gain convenience and a dedicated space for refreshments, but you give up the ability to store larger items like frozen pizza trays or bulk groceries. The panel-ready claim is another point that trips people up. Summit advertises that the unit can be fitted with a custom cabinet panel to blend seamlessly with surrounding cabinetry. That sounds perfect for a built-in look, but the reality is you need to source the panel yourself, and the installation isn't a simple snap-in. You'll need to cut the panel to the exact dimensions, align the door swing. This model is left-hand, meaning the hinge is on the left side when the door opens toward you, and make sure the venting isn't blocked. If you're comfortable with a little DIY, or have a cabinet installer on hand, the aesthetic payoff can be worth it, especially in a modern kitchen where a freestanding white box would look out of place. If you're hoping for a plug-and-play solution that just sits on the floor, you might be disappointed. Now, who should actually consider buying this unit? If you run a small coffee shop, a boutique gym, or a co-working space where the main refrigeration is already handling perishable food, a dedicated beverage center can be a game-changer. It lets staff keep a rotating stock of bottled water, energy drinks, or chilled milk without pulling the larger fridge open and losing cold air. The left-hand door swing is also a subtle but useful feature for spaces where the unit sits against a wall on the right side. The door opens away from the wall, reducing the chance of it hitting a countertop or backsplash. Homeowners with limited kitchen space who still want a mini fridge for drinks will also appreciate the compact footprint. 15 inches wide fits nicely under many countertops without crowding the work triangle. Conversely, you should skip this model if you're looking for a primary food storage solution, need a freezer compartment, or have a high-traffic environment where you'll be pulling dozens of drinks per hour. The cooling system is designed for moderate use. It isn't built to handle the constant load of a busy bar or a large family that expects to keep a week's worth of groceries inside. Also, if you don't have the inclination to deal with panel integration, the panel-ready aspect becomes a sunk cost you might never realize. In that case, a freestanding mini fridge with a finished exterior could be more practical. Let's talk practical strengths. The first thing you notice when you power it up is how quickly the interior reaches a drinkable temperature. Users have reported that within an hour the interior stabilizes in the low 40s Fahrenheit range, which is ideal for most beverages. Because the unit is insulated with a decent thickness of foam, you'll also notice that the exterior stays relatively cool to the touch, even after a few hours of operation. This matters if the unit is placed near a countertop where kids might reach for a snack. No scorching handles. The door seal feels snug, and the gasket doesn't squeak or let cold air escape, which translates to a modest energy draw. The unit isn't a power guzzler, so you won't see a spike on your electric bill. On the flip side, there are a couple of weaknesses that become evident after a few weeks of everyday use. The interior lighting is a single strip that runs across the top, which is adequate.